Evet, bugün anlamlı bir gün.
Today is a meaningful day
Zira
because
İstiklal Marşımızın kabulünün
it is
100. yıl
the centennial
dönümünde
anniversary
aynı zamanda
of the
ekonomi
official
reformları tanıtım
acceptance of our
toplantısını yapıyoruz.
national anthem, the Independence
Zira bu da
March. We're
bizim
also holding a
ekonomik
meeting to
bağımsızlığımızın
announce
inşallah
our economic
değişik
reforms. Hopefully,
bir
this will
yapısının
be
açıklanmasına
the announcement.
vesile oluyor.
It will be an occasion of the
Aziz
announcement
milletim,
of the changes in our economic
değerli
reforms.
misafirler,
And distinguished guests,
hanımefendiler, beyefendiler,
ladies and gentlemen,
sizleri en kalbi duygularımla,
I greet all of you
muhabbetle selamlıyorum.
with my most sincere sentiments.
Türkiye ekonomisinin yarınlarını şekillendireceğine inandığımız
We believe
reform
the
programımızı
future of Turkish
sizlerle
economy will be
paylaşmak
shaped
üzere
with
bir
this
araya
reform
gelmiş bulunuyoruz.
program, and we have gathered on the
Programın
occasion
hazırlıklarını
of the
geçtiğimiz
announcement
yılın Kasım ayından beri yürüttük.
of this program, for which we have been
Çalışmamızın
preparing since last
ekonomiyi
November.
yatırım,
The purpose
üretim,
was investment,
istihdam
production,
ve
employment,
ihracat temelinde
and exports,
büyütme
and to
amacımızla
grow our economy around these
üretimde
four
verimlilik artışı sağlayarak
pillars. By increasing
potansiyel
efficiency
büyümemizi
in production,
artıracağız.
we are going to increase
Reel
our
ekonomiyi
potential
daha da
growth.
güçlendirerek
We will further
ithal
strengthen
bir
real
kullanımı
economy
azaltmış, katma
by
değerli
decreasing
üretimle
imported
ihracatta
inputs
yeni
and
rekorlar kıran
by
yerli
making new
ve
records
milli bir
in
ekonomi
local production,
hedefliyor.
and we
Programın
target a
hazırlıkları
local and
sürecinde
national economy.
arkadaşlarımız,
In the
özel
preparations
sektör
of the
temsilcileri
program, our
ve
colleagues
sivil
have
toplum
met with
kuruluşlarıyla bir araya
representatives of
gelerek
private
tüm
industry and
talepleri
NGOs and
ve
have
teklifleri
listened to all the
dinledik.
proposals and
Sık
requests.
sık ekibimle, heyetimle bir araya
I have met
geldim
frequently with
ve
my delegation
değerlendirmeleri
and my
bu
team, and
şekilde yaparak
we
son
have reviewed
çizgiye
together
çıkacağız.
and we have finalized the
Toplantının
economic
akabinde
reforms.
sizlere kitapçıklar dağıtacağız.
After this meeting, we're
Ayrıca
going to distribute booklets to you.
ülkemizdeki büyükelçilere,
We will also
uluslararası camiaya
distribute
da
them to the
size
international community
dağıtacağımız
as well as the
kitapçıklarımız var.
ambassadors in our country.
Ardından bakanlıklarımız ve partimizin ilgili birimleriyle
After
tüm
that,
başlıklar
with
masaya
the
yatırıldı.
ministries and
Etkili ve
with
kalıcı
relevant
çözüm yolları
government
açık
agencies, we
yüreklilikle
have discussed some of the
tartışıldı.
points and we openly discussed
Biz de
some
bu süreçten
solutions.
başından itibaren takip ettik.
I have followed the
Yönlendirdik
process since the
ve
beginning. I
nihai
have
şeklini
guided it
verdik.
and we have finalized.
Toplantımızın İstiklal Marşımızın kabulünün
The meeting also
100. yılına denk
coincides
gelmiş olması da ayrı bir gurur.
with the centennial of our national anthem's
Türkiye'nin
acceptance.
bu üç kelimenin altını özellikle çiziyorum.
And I would like to underline specifically
İstihsal mücadelesini istiklal ve istikbal mücadelesi kadar
Turkey's
önemli görüyorum.
struggle for improving the economy is as important as its fight for its future
İşte bu
and its
anlayışla
independence.
tam da İstiklal Marşımıza yakışır
So, in
şekilde
a way that
ve aynı
suits
ruhla
our Independence
yaşadığımız
March,
devrin
and in the
ihtiyaçlarına
same
göre
spirit,
şekillendirdiğimiz
we
yeni
are
yol
shaping
haritasını
our new roadmap
milletimizle
based on the needs
paylaşıyoruz.
of the times that we go through,
İnşallah
and
bu
we're
yol
sharing it
haritasını
with our public today.
milletimizle,
Hopefully,
kurumlarımızla,
as we share this new
teşkilatımızla
roadmap with
tüm
our nation,
paydaşlar
with our
hep birlikte
institutions,
hayata geçireceğiz.
and with government
Türkiye'yi
agencies,
dünyanın
we're
en
going
büyük
to put it
10
into practice
ekonomisinden
all
biri
together.
haline getirmek için
In order to
her
make
halde
Turkey one of the top 10
gece gündüz
economies
çalışarak
of the world,
hedeflerimize
we will
mutlaka
work day and
ulaşacağız.
night, and we will
Allah'ın
definitely
yardımı
reach our
ve
targets.
milletimizin
With the
desteği
help of God
o
and the
günlerin çok
support
yakın
of our
olduğuna
nation,
yürekten
we believe
inanıyorum.
cordially that those days are
Aziz
quite
milletim,
near.
yakın tarihe baktığımızda ülkelerin
When we
ekonomilerinin
look at
en
near
çok
history, we
siyasi
see that
istikrarsızlıklardan
economies
ve
of
güven ikliminin
countries are affected
bozulmasından
by the
etkilenmiş
loss of the climate of trust
kritik
and the
olarak
political
çok
fluctuations.
önemli.
Two terms are
Bu
very important.
istikrarsızlık
They are stability and trust.
biz de bu tespitten hareketle
And based on this,
2002 yılında
in the year
ülkenin yönetimini
2002,
devraldığımızdan
when we took
beri
over the
Türkiye'yi
office, when we took over the administration of the country, we wanted to improve Turkey based on stability and trust to make it even stronger, and we have been working for this purpose. For many years, Turkey had to face instabilities because of coalitions as well as the environment of terror and chaos, and Turkey had to pay heavy prices for this. This situation also made us unprepared for the economic or political or social crisis. During the terms of our governments, during which we were in office by ourselves, we have always witnessed this problem and we have always been alert about it. With our administration, we were able to overcome many political, social, economic challenges and quakes. We were able to successfully withstand all of them, and we were able to keep our country on track for our 2023 goals. This was one of the reasons why we wanted to change the administration system of our country, because we were aware very closely of the threats that were caused by the vulnerabilities of the previous system. Thanks to the agreement of the People's Alliance and our nation's support, we shifted to the executive presidential system, and we were able to save Turkey from the vulnerable political environment in a lasting way. Nobody in this country, no group or no circle can have the ambition to rule the government and the country against the will of the nation. No administrator who comes to power with the support and approval of the nation can act against their will and have the chance to divide our people for whatever reason. In other words, one of the main requirements for economic development is political stability, and we have structured and institutionalized it, which also has been a step which made stability easier. Turkey, despite many global and regional crises, is able to maintain its power, and if it continues going to its targets, it is thanks to this new system. The new administration system can be updated and developed, and for many centuries it will contribute to the stability and trust climate in our country. Hopefully, with the new and civilian constitution, we will take certain steps which may be needed in this area. With the rest of the world, our country is also hit by the coronavirus pandemic, which, thanks to the infrastructure that we installed in place in the past 18 years, the new system that we installed was challenged by the global pandemic. But from health to security to social solidarity, we were able to pass this challenge, pass this test. Of course, we have had some problems, and we still do, but none of these problems are problems that we cannot overcome. All developed and developing countries, when we look at the situation in different parts of the world, we can see that Turkey is differentiating from the rest in a positive way. To give an example, in the year 2020, the global economy shrank by 3.5%. Global trade contracted by close to 10%. Foreign direct investment decreased by 42%. Global debt amounted to $282 trillion, reaching the highest level of history. Food prices have reached the highest of the past 6 years, and metal prices have reached the highest level of the past 9 years. The destructive impacts of the pandemic have not ended yet, but we see new threats emerge every day. There are developments in pharmaceuticals and vaccinations which give us more hope, but more than 100 countries still haven't had access to vaccines, which is a sign of injustice and inequalities in the world as a striking example that will stay in our minds. The analyses tell us that until 2023, 85 countries will still not have access to the vaccine. But vaccines and drugs, unless they're open to the fair use of all countries, the prosperous of the world cannot reach peace, or big economies of the world cannot reach stability. As these developments take place in the world, what did Turkey do, or how was it able to differentiate itself? If you ask this question, our answer is very simple. First of all, we did not want to leave any of our citizens behind, so we used all means of our state.
Elimizdeki imkanlar, kendi vatandaşlarımızla birlikte tüm dostlarımız ve
In addition to our own citizens, we also used our means with all of our friends and our brothers. Thanks to our strong health infrastructure and the inclusive social security system, we did not leave any of our citizens abandoned and helpless against the pandemic. We have expanded the scope of our social security system. We have made conditions easier and made processes quicker in order to help everyone who needed help. And we were very strong this way strong and resilient against the threats of the crisis. Thanks to the coordination and administration capacity of the executive presidential system, our policies were proactive, agile, and effective, and this way we managed to differentiate Turkey in a positive way from many other countries. Turkey was also prepared for different contingencies and is able to act quickly, as we demonstrated to the whole world. Despite the pandemic, we grew by 1.8%. Among G20 countries, we are one of the only two countries which were able to grow its economy, and we are the second after China.
Özellikle yılın ikinci yarısında aldığımız tedbirler
With the measures that we took in the second half of the year and the steps and support packages in order to revive the economy, we have become one of the few countries in the world which was able to grow its economy. With a diverse production in our industry and our ability to adapt to changes and our proficient and competent human resource were some of our strongest advantages. On the other hand, we know that there are issues that we have to focus more strongly on. During our governments, every time we face challenges, we approach them in a result-oriented and solution-oriented way, and we insist on doing the same today. We carry out reforms which will strengthen our country, and we take steps without any hesitation. In the past few weeks, we have announced our Human Rights Action Plan, and today, in order to incentivize the private industry and discipline the public side, we are announcing our economic reforms and offering it to the public. With our reform program, we strengthen our strengths, and in some other problematic areas, we are offering realistic solutions which are firmly on the ground. So far, we did not sweep any of our problems under the carpet, and we did not ignore any of our problems. We always were aware that change and improvement is a fact of life, and it should be done in a continuous way. We have always worked with this philosophy for many years, and today we are standing in front of our nation with the same idea. We are determined in winning the fight against the pandemic. The year 2021 will also be a preparation year for growth in the medium term. After the pandemic,
özellikle bu dönemin ekonomik yapılanmasına uygun şekilde
especially in line with the economic structure of this term, will grow in a sustainable, strong and high quality way.
yakalayacak.
And we will definitely achieve this goal.
Büyümenin toplumun her kesiminin refahını artıracak istikamette gerçekleşmesi
Growth must also ensure the increase of prosperity for all segments of society, which is a must for us. All of our policies will be carried out in a way to strengthen the macroeconomic picture and support production and efficiency, also in a foreseeable and transparent administration method.
güçlü, sağlam ve her türlü şoklara karşı dirençli bir ekonomiye giden yol
The way to a strong and resilient economy against every kind of shock goes through the macroeconomic stability. In order to maintain stability, we will put in place macroeconomic measures as well as certain structural changes and transitions. And for this reason, this main frame of the reforms will be macroeconomic and structural policies. In line with the macroeconomic stability, the public finance, inflation, financial industry, current deficit, and employment will be addressed. On the structural policies, strengthening the corporate structure, improving and incentivizing investment and facilitating inner trade, competition policies, market oversight and audit have been included within our reforms. Our first area of reform will be to create a stronger public finance against the risks. As was the case in the past 18 years, in the future, a financial discipline based on trust and reliability is our top priority. They always talk about price stability, and we have now put that aside. In the new term, in the upcoming term, as I have just detailed, will be built on four principles: investment, employment, manufacture and exports. Expenditure discipline, debt management, tax regulations, public procurement tenders, public-private partnerships, and will be included in our new policies which will put into effect in the new term. When it comes to spending discipline, the priority will be budget policies, which is an important way of serving the public. The scope of the Parliament's budget will be extended, but transparency and accountability will be increased. Two important policies will be changed for this end. First of all, our rotating capital will be reviewed, and those who are not efficient will be closed down, and the rest will be added to the central administration budget, which means under the oversight of the Parliament. And secondly, the private calculation accounting practices will only be limited to the urgent and necessary ones, and those who do not fulfill the criteria will be gradually abolished. And this way, we will improve the unity in the budget. We do not tolerate wastage. For that reason, in order to improve savings in public agencies, we will put into place certain changes. For instance, procurement or renting of vehicles or hosting expenditures will be limited with certain limits. The further details of these changes will be announced in more detail to the public and will be closely followed by us. As a requirement of the executive presidential systems, the administrative efficiency will be an important principle in the management of public bodies. And for public officers, all administrations, all affairs will be run by a single administration. A public administration is a whole, so in addition to the central government, we will also work with local administration to create a more saving-oriented outlook. We will strengthen the fiscal discipline and decrease the debt stock. And with the capacity increase that we ensure from here, the financial burden on the central administration will be mitigated as well. One of our top sensitivities in expenditures is the social aid that is offered by the state, reaching the families that need it, and no injustices will be tolerated in this area. For that reason, the central and local administration social aid data will be collected into an integrated database system in order to ensure data transparency. Also, to increase transparency, budget results, policy developments, and our targets will be shared with a public finance report at every quarter. Every lira of tax that is paid by our public will be seen more clearly, so that fiscal policy applications will be followed more closely and clearly by the taxpayers. Many countries currently are suffering under debt which is multiple times above their national income. But the ratio in our country is only 41%, the public debt to income ratio. But the average in European Union countries is close to 90%. For many years, we have practiced fiscal discipline, and thanks to this tradition, we have a strong debt management framework. For budget financing, in addition to borrowing, debt stock structure has also been managed well. And within this frame, the debt stock, in order to decrease its sensitivity, vulnerability against foreign stocks, their share in the total debt stock will be decreased. We will mainly borrow with our own currency, and we are going to use bonds which are in Turkish lira. The terms will be in line with market conditions. The treasury cash management will also be strengthened, and for this reason, the books for the other agencies, except for the treasury, will be collected in a single system so that we can ensure efficiency in cash management. By decreasing the risk premium of our country, we will decrease the borrowing costs of our country. The public finances income side consists of taxes, and tax policies will be simplified, and we will put into place some steps that increase foreseeability. For shop owners, I would like to share good news. During the pandemic, we have witnessed what kind of challenges our shop owners had. So in our reform package for the low income small shop owners, we have included a tax exemption.
Basit usulde vergilendirilen kuaför, tesisatçı, tuhafiyeci, marangoz,
for instance, carpenters, mechanics, or coffee houses, hairdressers, tailors, or repairmen. 850,000 shop owners in total will not have to pay income taxes and will not have to declare. This will ease the conditions for the shop owners which are included in the scope, and I hope this new policy will serve them well.
kayıt dışılığı azaltacak ve vergiye uyumu teşvik edecek şekilde
We will also change the tax procedure law in order to decrease unregistered situations and to increase compliance. For instance, some conditions like notarization or bookkeeping and declaration will be decreased. And in tax fines, we are going to increase the reconciliation scope. We will also increase gradually the electronic bookkeeping practices in order to decrease the losses in tax collection. Without having to go to the tax office physically, our citizens will be able to run their transactions in the digital platform. A digital tax office application will be put in place so that it will be open for our citizens' use 24/7. In order to increase the satisfaction of taxpayers and to increase service quality, we will also introduce a digital tax assistance application. International investors, we know that face some challenges in tax payments, so we have included that in our reforms as well. In order to prevent some problems from emerging, we will revise the double taxation prevention agreements. When it comes to tax issues which include more than one country, we are going to use a mutual agreement system in a more in a better way. In order to increase predictability, we are going to increase pricing applications, and for the debt which is not paid to the public in time, they will be collected by a single administration so that our citizens will not have to face this problem in the future. In tax oversight, standards, foreseeable and models which can prevent unjust competition will be initiated. In tax reviews based on industries and different topics, different applications will be eliminated. We will use the speed that is given to us by digitalization so that taxpayers will not have problems of long-lasting audits. Electronic notices, electronic reviews or reports will be included in the digital tax audit system. The scope of it will be expanded and the tax audit processes and time periods will be shortened. One of the most important reforms is going to take place in public procurement tenders. In the public procurement tenders, we will start using a new and digital system. We are going to decrease the number of exceptions and some of them will be kept, but they will be regulated closely. Also, we are starting our preparations for an industry-specific procurement laws. We are going to audit the competencies of companies which bid for tenders and we will share them with the public before the tender. The certification system will run digitally and it will be open for everyone. The tenders will go through this system and this way they will be faster, more convenient and they will cost less. We will also use the public's power of creating scale, and within this frame we are going to shift public procurement towards locally produced goods so that we can help the development and diversification of our local industries. For products in strategic industries, we will increase local ratio and ensure technology transfer through procurement guarantees. In order to decrease imported good ratio, under a committee of industry, we are going to create a central monitoring agency, and with the tender provisions, we are going to standardize public procurement. And public hospitals are the most concrete example of public-private partnership projects which have been appreciated by the whole world. This application will be carried to the next level and the public-private partnership law will be passed. And this way, investors will only have to face a single law and all projects, legal infrastructure will be strengthened for different industries and projects. This will be prioritized and processes will be more foreseeable.
Kamu iktisadi teşebbüslerimizi günün ihtiyaçları ışığında reforma tabi tutmak üzere
We will also start an effort in order to modernize the government business enterprises. Our goal is to keep the enterprises and make them global and efficient brands. As you remember, in the aftermath of the 2009 crisis, we have put into place some policies and we were appreciated, our success was appreciated by the whole world. And in this new term, we are going to put into practice public finance measures and we are going to differentiate positively from many other countries and we will have new successes. This year, we have improved our budget deficit target to 3.5% and we're going to reach it without compromising on fiscal discipline. In addition to this, of course, we cannot overlook the risk that the pandemic may continue. For that reason, we will expand the fiscal area allocated in the budget for this so that we can respond to the needs which may be required by risks like the pandemic. One of our prioritized agenda items will be the fight against inflation. Our target is going to be single-digit low inflation figures. Because it decreases foreseeability in investment and has negative impacts on the daily lives of our citizens. And this is not our first fight against the inflation. In the past, we have experienced inflation which was above 100%. We took it over at 30% and dropped it down to single digits. The increase in inflation has had structural and temporal reasons. For instance, the food prices increased globally and countries are expecting a drought and pandemic in the world to continue this year, and for that reason countries are trying to increase their food stocks, which is decreasing foreseeability in food prices. And the food committees, it's difficult for food committees to shape their policies. In order to make this possible, we are going to put into place an early warning system, and thanks to this early warning system, especially production and at wholesale and retail, the whole food chain will be followed in real time and will be reported. The real-time data flow of the system will increase our decision-making speed. Also, in order to decrease wastage and loss, we will take some additional actions. I would like to express in great sorrow that 19 million tons of food is wasted in our country every year. At least 25% of the fruits and vegetables that are manufactured are wasted in different parts of the chain. 4 tons of wastage per business, and in order to stop this, we are going to take additional steps. For instance, fresh fruits and vegetables which are left in the markets and fields will be brought back to the market. These products will be included in the digital agriculture market and will reach buyers quickly. And thanks to this digital market, Farmers at every scale will be able to find markets for their products, and consumers and shop owners will be able to supply products at good quality. The cold chains will be supported more in order to decrease wastage in such products. We will make food banks more attractive and more widespread. In agricultural output, we will increase foreseeability and decrease price fluctuations, and we are going to develop contractual agricultural practices. In unprocessed food, we are going to contribute to the decrease of intermediary fees, and we will finalize the works for the wholesale market locations. In the food industry, the annual turnover is 500 billion, and if we can decrease the wastage by only 2%, that will mean a 10 billion lira savings. This will also prevent artificial price fluctuations. Of course, the fight against the inflation does not only include food prices. In inflation, there are structural shocks which create risks, and in order to set required policies and to manage them, we will also establish a price stability committee. Treasury and Finance, Industry and Technology, Energy and Natural Resources, Trade and Agricultural Ministries will be present in this committee, and we believe that it will help us in the fight against inflation. Especially in the fight against inflation, managing expectations and decreasing inflation lethargy is very important, and for that reason the price increases that are guided by the public will be based on the target inflation rather than the actual inflation. In order to ensure financial stability and to improve finance industry, these are going to be some of our priorities. The Turkish banking system, in terms of capital adequacy, liquidity, profitability, and asset quality, in such financial solidity indicators, Turkish banking system has a strong outlook compared to many other countries. By protecting the strength, we want to increase its resilience and immunity. For the late coming negative impacts of the pandemic to be mitigated and to improve the asset quality of the banking industry, we will take some additional measures. For instance, even if they have bad debt, companies which can survive will be guided in the right way as one of the measures. Companies which are experiencing problems, in order to ensure that they survive in the banking industry, operational restructuring and company rehabilitation functions will be incentivized. Also, venture capital funds will be established, and for this we will create a regulation infrastructure. Asset management companies, in order to operate in a competitive and efficient way, some of the detailed taxes will be eliminated for them. The exception will be made permanent, and this way the banking system's asset quality will be improved, and for the indebted, a faster, more flexible and low-cost solutions will be possible. On the other hand, for the participation finance industry, we are going to introduce a single regulation which will improve its efficiency, so that the participation finance industry will be gathered under the single roof, and a central advisory board will be available for the industry. At international standards, an arbitration system will be established, so that the finance systems, corporate infrastructure can be developed, a certain number of steps will be taken. And for this goal, all loan and risk data of the country will be gathered at the risk center. The center will be restructured. And for card payments, the brand of our country is Troy. We are going to make it a standalone company. Our goal is to make it compete, to have a strong local brand which can compete against its peers and decrease the commissions that we pay outside. Digital money's economic and digital and legal infrastructure will be created with the steps that we take. An oversight mechanism to protect the consumer will be established so that the relations between banks and their customers will get a more transparent structure. Another important pillar of the finance system is the capital markets, and we will have important changes about those as well. In order to encourage companies to do their investment with their equities, we will make their IPOs easier. In capital markets, in order to increase product diversity, a project financing fund and project-based securities changes will be completed. And this way, the infrastructure, transport, energy, communications, and health projects will be able to will be financed through capital markets. For these investments, we will also make it possible for our citizens to join in these investments. We will improve the financing options of environmentally sensitive projects. The green bonds, which see a lot of demand internationally, we will strengthen the infrastructure for them so that we can encourage these issuances for renewable energies, potable water, and electric or hybrid transports which decrease carbon emissions. Such investments will be possible to finance through these methods. In order to also encourage the bond issuance of real industry, we are going to establish a fund which, in the case of a possible default, they will guarantee investors so that companies will be able to issue bonds at lower costs and the demand from investors will increase. I have only summarized some new means, and we invite our companies to use these methods in order to grow their businesses, their companies, and to increase employment. We will not also ignore the insurance aspect, and we will help deepen the personal system for retirement, and the performance in the past few years of the individual retirement system has shown the demand for our country. But the process has shown us that it's now time to improve the system of individual pension scheme. We are going to expand it. 25% of our population is under the age of 18, and we will make it possible for them to enter the system of individual retirement. This way, we are going to improve the habit of savings, and we will increase the awareness of personal financial literacy from early ages. In order to secure the future of our children, we are going to run this process with 25% government subsidy in order to fulfill the public's responsibility. For associations and foundations, the pension savings will be transferred to the individual pension system until the end of 2023. In addition, education, health and life insurances will be integrated with the system so that low cost and government supported insurances will be available to our citizens. For capital and finance markets, another important step that we take is going to be for our young entrepreneurs. For enterprises that focus on technology, Turkey enjoys a high potential because we have very competent young people who run projects in games to biotechnologies, from fintech to cybersecurity. In many areas, they work on technologies that are very promising and they carry out projects which are very innovative. They make us proud, such projects, and in order to pave the way for them and in order to mature our venture ecosystem, entrepreneurial ecosystem, we are going to put into place crowdfunding mechanisms. And when it comes to the fight against the current deficit, we will closely follow three main policies. First of all, we will focus on the structural current deficit. Our second priority is going to be spreading exports to the grassroots so that SMEs which have the potential to export but never have will be encouraged to export. And our third and last area will be the green transition in industry. Before I go into the details of such main policies, I would like to draw your attention to the export adventure of our country since the year 1962. What you see on the visual at the moment is the product space. It shows us which products that we export, different industries, and their connection to each other. As you can see, in 1962, we were mostly exporting agricultural goods and a limited number of mines. But over the years, we have improved the quality of exports. In 1960s and in 1970s, we don't see much dynamism. And afterwards, in the aftermath of 1980s, we see an increase in diversity in our exports. And during this term, we add textile, some main metals, and certain chemicals to our export mix. In 1990s, there was political instability and our export had to share the same fate. But thanks to our administration, after the year 2002, a new movement started in our exports. For instance, machinery, white goods, equipments, exports have increased very rapidly. 60 years on, thankfully now, currently, we are witnessing a development in industry and a diversification in production and exports. Right behind me, you see the product space of Turkey. As we appreciate this achievement, we do not find it sufficient. Our foreign imported input is not, dependency is not at the level that we desire, so the unit price in our exports is low, and this is why the fight against structural current deficit is required and important. In our industry, we will ensure the improvement of capacity and carry our competitive power to the next level with the steps that we take, especially with the credit guarantee fund in the 5th and 6th region. Production-based export substitution and export investments will receive long-term support. Our production industry, manufacturing industry will be more strongly integrated to the global supply chain, and we are going to put in place support programs for some target countries. Also, in order to develop an innovative and new health industry, we are going to start a health industries presidency, which will report to the president's office. From pharmaceuticals to vaccinations to medical supplies, many strategic products will be manufactured locally in a competitive way, and it will be run under the responsibility of this new agency. Similarly, in newly developing technologies, we would like to have a strong say. As you know, digital transition and AI-based technologies all rely on software. In order to gain competitive edge in economy, reaching the right data, analyzing data, and coming up with the best solutions, we need, of course, software technologies. In order to improve our capacity to encourage young employment under the presidential office, we will also establish a software and hardware technologies agency. Just like in defense industry, in health and in software, this will contribute to increasing the locality ratio and will support the ecosystem domestically and gain us new areas for our economy. Our current deficit is also triggered by energy, and in energy we are not a rich country in terms of raw material, and for this reason we are going to put into place policies which decrease foreign dependency in energy. We will also expand the scope of support for energy efficiency projects. For electricity storage facilities, we are going to complete the legal infrastructure for them to be established. The natural gas market will be restructured in order to make this area more competitive. Mining, oil, gas exploration and processing, we will improve the investment environment in this area and increase investment security. For our export products to reach markets in a faster way and in a more low-cost way, we are going to establish logistics centers abroad. Also, new generation free economic zones will be put in place so that in high technology product and service production we are going to encourage clustering. Exim Bank will be restructured based on international needs. Similarly, the Credit Guarantee Fund is going to be reshaped in order to support high value added production and high level employment, to support it with selective loans. Turkey draws its strength from the young and competent human resource. We have the energy to achieve anything, very dynamic, productive, skilled, and energetic youth. We want to increase their employment and to help them develop their skills, and we will take certain steps to do so. We're going to increase the number of vocational education centers and make them more attractive for the young people. In order to do so, we will increase the fees that they receive during their internship. The fees of the students which are trained in these areas will be paid by the government so that the burden on the industry is decreased. In order to guide the workforce to industries, we are creating skill maps for every province. And for the jobs of the future, in order to create new areas, we're going to update the government support. Also, Also, in order to increase the digital capabilities, long-term internship programs will be supported. Also, we will look at the efficiency of current incentive mechanisms. We will decrease redundancies and simplify the system. The pandemic has caused certain damages in employment markets, so under the name of an additional government subsidy, we are going to introduce expanded systems. For micro and small-scale companies which are having problems in this area will be able to benefit from these new changes.
Buna göre firmalar
for every additional person that companies add to the workforce under the guarantee of the credit guarantee fund, they will be able to receive 24 months 100,000 lira loans, for which the first 6 months will be the gray period. This will be possible for up to 5 employees and companies which fulfill their commitment will be able to deduct their additional costs of social security payment from their credit costs, which means companies which create employment will be able to get loans from banks at much lower prices. Also, companies which use the cash support and reuse their employees into the workforce will also benefit from additional financing support. When it comes to macroeconomic stability, our reforms will be completed with structural reforms. The first one of our structural reforms will be in the strengthening of the institutional capacity in the public. All developments in the economy will be followed closely and managed by 2 new structures. The first one will be led by the Deputy President, the Economy Coordination Committee. The second one will be led by the Ministry of Treasury and Finance, a Financial Stability Committee. With these 2 new structures that we create in our economy and finance policies, we will increase transparency, predictability, and coordination, and we will strengthen our communication mechanisms. In order to also increase the trust to public management and to improve the quality of the decisions made, we will improve the vocational, professional experience standards in high-level officers. Public officers will be able to take part in the management or audit boards of only one additional institution in addition to their current workplaces. Turkish Statistics Agency will be improved. In order to improve productive investment, we will take steps that will increase foreseeability in the private industry. We will decrease the risks of investors which may come from public practices so that they can focus better on their main duties, which is exports, employment, investment, and production. For private industry investments, in order to facilitate and accelerate the investment, we will start a conflict agency. Thanks to the new system that we create, when investors have conflicts with the administration, the issues will be resolved very quickly. Our investment support system will be simple and more easily understandable and more attractive. In the new incentive system, equity-based high value added and regional clustering priorities investments will be supported more. The social security premium support period will be increased in case women and youth are employed. And for cash support, we will use more selective and more effective support. For investors, they will receive more support, especially during the investment phase, so that projects can come to life more quickly. In major projects, with the partial completion, the contribution amount will be revised so that investors will protect the value of the incentive that they can use. Also, there will be a system in which the government side is fulfilled more quickly. So, based on the investment, the government support will also be exempt from other taxes at certain levels. In government support, the efficiency of public resources will be increased, and for that, the principles of all public subsidies will be carried out by an umbrella legislation. In domestic trade, competition will be improved thanks to the new steps that we take. In retail, in order to eliminate unfair trade practices, in line with EU legislation, new changes will take place. In trade registry services, we will improve digitalization so that companies can be formed more quickly and companies can make decisions more quickly. For cooperatives to be more transparent and more professional, we will make changes in the cooperatives law. Also, in digital markets, in order to create a competitive and fair environment, we will prevent major platforms to abuse their powers. The data that is collected in these platforms will not be used against their purpose or in a way that limits competition, and will take measures against this. The digital marketplace platforms we will protect the rights of companies which sell their products. This way, even the smallest investor, as they carry out their activities in digital marketplaces, they will be able to do so in the most reliable way possible. In line with the EU legislation about transferring data overseas, we will make changes in the law regarding the protection of personal data. In market oversight and audit, we will take very innovative steps. Oversight and audit is carried out by different institutions, which causes redundancy and slows down. For that reason, in order to protect consumers and increase registered transactions, and in order to decrease unfair competition, an independent market oversight and audit institution will be created. To create a fair and competitive environment in the market, this agency will have the authority to carry out independent audits. Also, under the framework of this agency, private industries and consumers will be represented in a coordination committee. As you can see, our economic reform package will carry Turkey to the future in a reliable way. It consists of reliable and concrete and result-oriented policies. As we have summarized here, all reforms will be completed at the timelines that we have designated. Every 3 months, we are going to carry out reform follow-up meetings in order to assess the application success of the practice.
İnşallah
Turkey will
çok daha güçlü
hopefully
bir
be much
küresel aktör
stronger
olarak
after the pandemic and
Bu
will
hedefe giden
emerge
yol,
as a much stronger
ekonomik
global
temelleri
player.
güçlenmiş,
The way
şoklara
to
karşı
this
direnç
target
ve
goes through
bağışıklık kazanmış,
a resilient
kamunun özel
economy
sektörü
which is
güçlendirerek
strong
destek
against
olduğu
risks and
mülkiyet
which
haklarının
is supported
güçlü bir
by the
şekilde
public and
korunduğu,
in which property rights are
verimliliği,
protected in a
rekabeti
strong
ve
way and
serbest piyasa
competition,
ilkelerini
efficiency
odağına
and free
almış
market
bir yapıdan
principles
geçtiğini
are
biliyoruz.
taken to the
Bugün
forefront.
sizlerle paylaştığımız
I have shared with you
ekonomi
today
reformları
the economy
ve geçen hafta
reforms,
açıkladığımız
and we have
insan
also
hakları genel
shared a
planı
human
gibi
rights
belgeler
action plan last week,
hedeflerimize
which
ulaşmamızı
will hopefully
kolaylaştıracak
help
konumda.
us reach
Bu
our
reformlar
targets. Such
bizim için
reforms
ne ilktir
are not
ne
the
de
first for
sonundur.
us, and they will not be the
Dünyanın
last.
ve ülkemizin değişen
The
şartlarına,
world and our country
milletimizin beklenti ve
are
taleplerine göre
changing, and
ne
based on the
gerekiyorsa
changing
yapmayı,
conditions and the
hangi adımlara
expectations of
ihtiyaç
our
varsa
nation, we
atmayı
will take
düşünüyoruz.
all steps which are needed.
Elbette
Of
reform
course,
belgelerimizle ilgili tenkitler olacak.
there could be criticisms
Biz
towards
yapıcı
our
her türlü
reform documents,
eleştiriyi
and we are open
dikkate aldık
to
ve
every
konuştuk.
kind of constructive
Hazırlık
criticism,
sürecinde
as we did
tüm
in the past.
tarafların
During
görüşlerini
the
açık
preparation, we
yüreklilikle tartışma
received the
suretiyle
opinions of all
istişareyle
parties and
hazırladığımız
discussed
bu
them in
programın
a frank way, and
Türkiye'nin
this
programı
program was
olduğuna
prepared in
samimiyetle
consultation, and
inanıyorum.
we fully believe that
Küresel
this is a
ekonominin
reform for
tarihin
all
en
Turkey.
zorlu dönemlerinden geçtiği,
The global economy
böylesine
is
zor
going
bir
through one
dönemde
of the most
ayakta
challenging periods
kalabilmenin
of
yolu
history, and the way to survive such
beraberlikten,
periods goes through
kardeşlikten,
unity,
dayanışmaktan
brotherhood,
geçiyor.
and solidarity.
Birlikte üretecek,
We will produce
birlikte
together,
bölüşecek
we will
ve hep birlikte
share
güçlenecek.
together, and we'll get stronger
İşlerimiz
all
bereketli,
together.
yolumuz açık,
May our business
geleceğimiz
be
aydınlık olsun.
good, and may our
Hepinize
way be open,
sevgilerimi,
our future be
saygılarımı
bright.
sunuyorum.
I greet all of
Kalın
you
sağlıcakla.
once again.
Cumhurbaşkanımız Sayın Recep Tayyip Erdoğan'a konuşmaları için çok teşekkür ediyoruz. Toplantımızı katılımlarıyla onurlandıran Cumhurbaşkanımız Sayın Recep Tayyip Erdoğan'a katılımları için çok teşekkür ediyor ve Sayın Cumhurbaşkanımızı saygılarımızla uğurluyoruz. Evet, çıkış koridorunu boşaltmanızı sizlerden önemli rica ediyoruz. Evet, koridoru lütfen rahatlatalım. Rica ediyoruz sizlerden.